and on a roll as of late, seen earlier today at Shoot Around in Indianapolis. Positive vibes permeating throughout the squad as this road trip continues. Here's looking at you, Danny Green. We're ready. It's 7-6 Live Countdown presented by Tissot coming at you. Good snowy evening if you're in the greater Delaware Valley. Hope you're staying safe, warm, and cozy. I'm Brian Seltzer. Lauren Rosen, great to be seeing you. Hope you're staying safe, warm, and cozy. I mean, listen, I know we got a basketball game, but anytime there's snow in the area, it's always a big headline.
I'm with you, Seltz. What better way to spend a Sunday evening than to just cozy up on the couch and enjoy some Sixers basketball? And these Sixers look pretty darn good these days.
They do. Some fireside hoops, hopefully, for some of you out there. Sixers 3-game road trip continues. There's some light at the end of the tunnel. They get 2 days without a game for the first time in forever after tonight, but this is going to be a big test. Another quality team out of the Eastern Conference, the Indiana Pacers, at the fourth place spot in the East going into tonight's matchup. And taking on a Sixers team, Lauren, that we should just hit this right off the top, is not going to have Joel Embiid this evening. So I think micro, obviously, that presents a challenge tonight because of how strong Indiana's front court is. But big picture, it means Joel Embiid didn't play yesterday, didn't play the fourth quarter the day before that, and then has 2 more idle days before the 76ers are at Charlotte. So an opportunity for rest for a guy who certainly has earned it and might deserve it.
Absolutely. And you can't underestimate the value of rest in a season like this one when these guys are playing more frequently than they're used to in a shorter amount of time than they're used to. So hopefully the Sixers can make quick work of tonight's game even without the big fella. We've talked about this a lot, Seltz, but when that starting five is intact on the road, this team is undefeated. When this starting five is intact in general, they don't lose. So obviously tonight, not going to be another chance for them to heighten those statistics. But with the rest of the group available, you'd imagine that the Sixers will still be able to pull something impressive out as long as, like you said, they protect that front court.
And I think what you mentioned is a good point before we move on and look at this game in the absence of Joel Embiid, that, yeah, when the 5 regulars are in the starting lineup, the 76ers reversing that narrative from last season about not being able to have success or win on the road. They've won all 4 of their games, and the 4 starters have played. Going back to Friday, just a dominant second half against Minnesota to lead that 118-94 win. And in the Sixers' 4 road wins with their starters, they've outscored the opposition by 72 points. That's not just a good road team. That's the makings of a very good road team. So personally, as I'm sitting on my soapbox here, a little bit tired of the narrative that the 76ers aren't a good road team.
I'm with you. Obviously, the sample size is pretty small when it comes to road games with all the starters this year. Like you said, only 4. But there's nothing to complain about. In those 4 games, they've done everything they can. And you'd like to think that they'll continue that solid road play trend even without the big fella tonight, and then maybe with him back in the lineup in Charlotte on Wednesday.
As we take a look at some of the highlights from Friday night's win at Target Center. Tobias Harris. He has been a mean dude this season. And I think, Lauren, the Sixers came out and were so businesslike. You wanted to see them follow up that win over the Lakers on Wednesday with a good showing. They got off to a tough start, had to overcome a 1-for-10 stretch to open the game in terms of their shooting. But that second half, led by Embiid, helped finish off by Tobias Harris. So good.
No doubt about it. This has become a really sneaky good third quarter team. And third quarter teams over recent history have done really well when it comes to playoffs and big situations down the road. It was awesome to see the group come out of halftime and just put it away in the third quarter. Like you said, the big fella did not have to play in the fourth quarter. And that's exactly what you want to see. Doc Rivers has said a couple of times that he's told his players at halftime that if they can get out as well as they can get out, they can have a seat. And that's a big deal when we talk about this very condensed season. Joel Embiid was just so good. 37 points in the first 3 quarters alone. He was just so strong, and it was really cool to see him come out that well, along with, of course, his teammates Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, both showed some really awesome stuff in this one. But more Joel. We can never have enough Joel Embiid highlights, I think, this season. 37 points, 10 of 9 from the field, 16 of 18 from the free throw line. And that, of course, includes the 2 free throws he missed right at the end. He was 16 for 16 from the free throw line. So that's just crazy.
Nuts. Such an important weapon and asset of his game. You know, probably saw enough Joel Embiid highlights, not just the Minnesota Timberwolves, but poor Ed Davis, who really did not have a shot having to contend with Embiid on the block all game long. Dwight Howard, we'll see if he'll get the starting nod in tonight's game. I'll be curious to see, Lauren, we can get to this a little bit later on, how Doc Rivers plays the 5-man rotation tonight. Well, not the 5-man rotation, the rotation at the 5, whether he sticks with Dwight Howard as a starter, that wouldn't surprise me. But making sure that someone like Tony Bradley Jr. might play in the 20 to 25-minute range. And then I think it sounds like Doc has been a bit intrigued by going with some lineups with Ben at the 5. So I think maybe some of those things could be on the table tonight.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Doc decides to do. Last time Joel sat, Tony Bradley did start the second half, so it's not out of the question that he might get the starting nod. But between Tony and Dwight, there are some pretty solid skills down low for this team, and hopefully the two of them can combine to make up for at least some of what Joel won't be able to bring this evening. And I agree with you. I do think we might see a little more of that Ben Simmons small ball 5 type lineup, which Doc Rivers has consistently said that they haven't had a ton of time to practice. They haven't had a ton of time to practice at all this year, but they haven't practiced that lineup a ton. It'll be interesting to see how they get more reps potentially with that group tonight, keeping in mind Mike Scott is another big fella on this team who is also not available. So it'll be interesting to see what Doc Rivers decides to do. In conclusion, I believe he'll probably do a combination of exactly what you said before I started this ramble.
Do want to dive more into Joel Embiid's performance on Friday, even though he's not playing tonight, what it means for his continued case for an MVP bid. But first, let's hear some sound from Ben Simmons talking about the 76ers' success on the road this season when their top players have been available.
It's great. You know, we have a lot of things we're trying to build off, and you know, every game's different. You know, we try to come into games not worrying about what the other teams. Focusing on too much is more about us and what we need to get better at, what we need to do to win games. And I think we've been good on the road. We've got to keep it going.
11 points, 7 assists, and 4 rebounds for Ben Simmons in the win on Friday. And yeah, I think that's a healthy mindset for the team to try and implement tonight. Just got to keep it going regardless of who's in or who's out.
No doubt about it. And Ben has been talking about that sort of spirit all season long. Regardless of who's out there, regardless of who's hot, he wants to make sure he's there to step in and contribute in a big way. So obviously tonight, without the team's, let's say, centerpiece this season, more opportunity for guys like Ben and Tobias, who, by the way, are both seeking All-Star bids this year. And if you haven't voted for All-Star and you have a couple minutes to do so now, just Google All-Star voting or go ahead and tweet out your favorite Sixers name with the hashtag NBA All-Star to vote. Oh, look at that.
Yes.
Ryan Coletti with the quick graphic. We love to see it. Please do vote for your favorite Sixer. They need your help, and your help will be felt when those teams are announced.
It's like, look at Joe and Ben's facial expression. Of course you're going to vote for us, and you're going to vote for Tobias too. You have to, because that's what, that's what you do as loyal fans. And this, in my opinion, if I'm going to have a really hard, strong take on tonight's show, this has been the easiest and most accessible way to vote for your All-Stars. In the past, really happy that the NBA revived it this year. You just do hashtag NBA All-Star, hashtag the player's name or their Twitter handle. Easy as that. Boom. Send it out. It's also a great way to engage with content as well. So win, 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 win. Joel Embiid, Friday. I do think it's worth just touching upon this, even though he's not playing tonight, Lauren. We talked about 37 points through 3 quarters. That is phenomenal. And a 76er hadn't scored that many points through 3 quarters since a gentleman by the name of Allen Iverson back in March of 2006 in a game against the Washington Wizards. Just once the Sixers started going to Joel Embiid, couldn't be stopped. And I think this has been one of the best things strategically about Doc Rivers. I love the fact that he makes the opposition stop a good play when it's working. Why would you go away from something if you're having success with it? Logical, right? And so he's forcing opposing teams to try and adjust and stop something that the 76ers are running and running well. I love it. I love that approach.
And I love that Joel has become so much more comfortable handling double teams. We've talked about it a lot all season, but it's really shining through, especially when you look at the fact that this is a big man leading the league in free throws attempted, and he's also leading the league in free throws made. He's so comfortable driving to the basket now. He knows that he can either get fouled or score. There's not that much in between for Joel these days, and he can make it happen from deep as well. He's just such a versatile player, and it's been just a pleasure to watch all season long.
Yeah, just stellar numbers from Joel Embiid through 3/4 of action. And now he's going to get the opportunity to rest that back for a total of, let's see, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 4 days before Wednesday's game against the Charlotte Hornets in the road trip finale. So I think that's a good thing. Here is Joel Embiid talking about what changed with his mindset once that third quarter got underway Friday in Minneapolis.
With the back tightness, I wanted to make sure I give us the best chance to, kind of close it out and also get some rest so I can play, so I can hopefully feel good for the upcoming games. And, I just have to lock in defensively and then offensively just take matters into, my own hands and just be aggressive. I started off bad, and I needed to make up for it. And but as a team, we did a good job. The credit goes, to my teammate that found me.
Well put by
I had a high hand and that couldn't stop me, and they kept feeding me.
Well put by Joel Embiid, as the 76ers should have. Keep feeding that hot hand. He talked about locking down defensively, Lauren. So too did a second-year member of the 76ers.
No doubt about it. Matisse Thybulle has been a popular topic of conversation in the Sixers' latest media scrums. He's looked really, really strong on the defensive end. And keep in mind, Matisse had a slower start this year after missing training camp with an ankle injury. And it's been really cool to see him get his feet under him. Doc Rivers has been very complimentary of the work he's done and the way that he's earned his minutes, especially over the last few games. I know we have some stats, but in Friday's game alone, 6 deflections, 3 contested shots. He also had 3 steals and 2 blocks. Matisse has been just racking up the steals, 17 steals in his last 8 games. He's showing why he's not just one of the best young defenders in the league. He really is one of the best defenders in the league at this point. It's been cool to see him step up his already really impressive game on the defensive end in his second year.
We know that going back to the start of training camp, he had a little bit of a slow start due to an injury and then finding his way into the rotation. But that opportunity presented itself about 2 weeks in. And after the game on Friday, Doc Rivers shared some thoughts about Matisse Thybulle.
He had 12 deflections by himself in the one quarter. And Joel was amazing. But if I was given a game ball out, it probably would be Matisse, or we'd split it with those two, because I thought he was a different Nick. I thought he frustrated Rubio, and then I thought he was phenomenal in Angelo Russell. So he's just a hell of a defender. He's got his legs under him now. He knows what we expect of him, and he's been terrific.
See, it's interesting because if some of you out there are very deep divers into your numbers, you might be familiar with the Hustle tab on the NBA stats page, which charts deflections and loose ball recovers and all that stuff. And they only gave Matisse credit for 6 deflections, which if you watch the game to the naked eye, sometimes when you see those numbers at the end, Lauren, I'm like, I think they shorted him a few, or maybe they shorted Ben Simmons a few, guys like that. So I like hearing, I will go by the Doc Rivers 76ers coaching staff deflections chart over the NBA stats deflection chart. Because, yeah, it seemed like Matisse was all over the place, and 12 seemed like a more realistic number, reasonable number, accurate number than the 6 deflections, which is still pretty damn good.
Yeah, even 6 is pretty phenomenal for a guy who's only averaging just under 16 minutes a game. He's leading the league now in deflections per 36, and that's considering they only gave him credit for 6 the other night. He'd be leading by even more if they gave him credit for all 12. But he's just been such an impressive force. We saw him shut down Blake Griffin and then play some really strong defense against LeBron James. and then go into the Minnesota game and lock down 2 guards. He's doing a great job of demonstrating that he can really guard certainly positions 1 through 4, if not some 5s as well. And tonight, you can imagine Matisse Thybulle will be relied on to do just that, especially in the absence of Joel Embiid. He can probably expect to be guarding some bigger guys tonight.
No doubt about it. A guy who the 76ers have also gotten great production from off the bench, Shake Milton. We always love, Lauren, hearing from Shake.
Yes, indeed. Shake has been a pleasure to watch, putting together a case of his own maybe for 6th man of the year. And I got to catch up with Shake this morning at the Sixers shoot around.
Hey, Shake, good to see you. Counting Friday's game in Minnesota, you guys are now undefeated on the road when all the starters are available. So how good does it feel to start getting into a rhythm of being just as threatening on the road as you guys are at home?
It feels good. I mean, I know when we're at full strength, we're a pretty tough team to beat. And, you know, everybody tries to do their parts, whether it be the starters coming in and starting the game off right, or, you know, the second unit coming in and making sure we're keeping that energy up. That's what it's about. So if everybody's doing their part, you know, good things happen for us.
In the last few games, it seems like this second unit that you are a huge part of is really starting to gel and make an important impact for this team in serious minutes. How does the chemistry feel like it's coming along among that group?
I feel like we got great chemistry. It's an easy group of guys to be around and to play with. Everybody's unselfish, and nobody really cares about themselves. Everything is about the win. And when you're playing for a team like that, it makes everything easy.
And lastly, I have to ask you about Tobias Harris, who has been playing some of the best basketball of his career. And especially after that game winner on Wednesday, he's getting a lot of chatter about maybe making his first All-Star team. What do you think about the tear that he's been on lately?
He earns it. And I see it day in and day out, just the work that he puts in, and then also his leadership skills. He's always talking to guys, always encouraging guys, sending guys texts. He's just on top of things, and you can see it in his play. He's aggressive, he's assertive, and when he's playing like that, we're a tough team to beat.
Shake Milton, thank you so much.
Great stuff with Lauren and Shake Milton. That was at Bankers Life Fieldhouse earlier today. That is the site of tonight's game between the 76ers and the 4th place Indiana Pacers. Pacers with a record of 11-8. And hey, they are treading water, Lauren. They are staying afloat. A lot's happened within the last couple of weeks with them. They were involved in the trade that sent James Harden from Houston to the Brooklyn Nets. And the prize for the Pacers was going to be a player who everyone knows, if you've watched the Sixers over the last couple of years, Caris LeVert is so dangerous, and he's really hurt the Sixers over the seasons. But because of the physical that he took as a result of this trade, they found, I'm sure people have heard this story, a small mass, a cancerous mass on his kidney, and it seems like he's going to be okay. They removed the mass, but just that's a remarkable story. And listen, if that's the only thing that comes of that trade, then, you know, thank the powers that be up there that Caris LeVert was able to discover that over the course of the transaction.
Yeah, just a truly wild story, and so happy to hear that Caris is expected to make a full recovery. Like you said, he's been such a phenomenal presence, or certainly he was, for the Nets, and I look forward to seeing eventually how he fits in with his new Pacers teammates. So shout out, of course, to whoever was in charge of the Pacers physical process when the trade went down, because as Caris LeVert has expressed himself, it ended up being a really special, important thing. That could maybe have even saved his life. So all the props in the world to the medical staff, and happy to hear that Caris is expected to make a full recovery.
Another part of that trade was that Victor Oladipo was sent to the Houston Rockets. So there's no more him with the Pacers anymore, and that takes away one All-Star from them. It sounded like, based on what you read, the odds of him re-signing with the Pacers after this year were not particularly high. So that's probably why Indy made the move. But listen, yeah, as we said, the Pacers have stayed afloat. They're top 4 in the Eastern Conference, and they still have another All-Star in Domantas Sabonis, who's delivered a double-double in every game he's played so far, and we know how good he can be, Lauren.
Yeah, he's certainly one to watch, and I know we'll cover that when we get to our Keys to the Game segment presented by Tissot in just a few minutes. But Sabonis has been really, really good. He's built out quite a niche for himself in this league, definitely one of the more respected, bigger men in this league. So again, the Sixers without Joel Embiid tonight, if you're just joining us, that will probably be one of the biggest things, if not the biggest thing on their plate, containing Sabonis, especially in that front court.
Yeah, and then there's another Defensive Player of the Year candidate who Indianapolis rolls out, and that's going to be a big factor tonight because there's no Joe in Miles Turner. And we know that Joel has gotten the upper hand of that matchup in recent seasons, but still, he's a very talented player in Miles Turner. So that's another weapon on the front line that the Pacers boast tonight in the game. The 76ers do not have Joel Embiid. All right, now to the aforementioned Tissot keys to the game. Lauren, you. Short straw.
I will go first. I already alluded to this, but I said keep Sabonis at bay. Doc Rivers has talked a lot already about the fact that without Mike Scott, the Sixers are a little bit thin at what is traditionally the 4 spot. So expect to see a lot of Tobias Harris, some of Ben Simmons trying to contain Sabonis, maybe a little Matisse Thybulle, who we talked about a little bit earlier. As long as they can contain that pretty much primary threat, the Sixers should be good tonight, but they will have their hands full at the 4 spot.
And to that end, I'm going to try and pick this one up seamlessly for my key to the game. Protect the paint. Indy comes in number 2 in the NBA, 54 points scored in the paint per game. They're 3rd in the league in percentage of points scored in the paint. And obviously, a lot of that has to do with the front line of Sabonis and Turner, the ability of some of their guards to get in there in the lane. So for the best the Sixers can, the good news is they have a former Defensive Player of the Year in Dwight Howard backing up Joel Embiid. Clog that paint. Keep Indy out of there. And those are our keys to the game, presented by Tissot. Lauren, I think I'm going to give one more shout out here before we give our normal shout outs. It is the final day of January. That means tomorrow is February 1st, and then Tuesday is February 2nd, and Tuesday is the final day for anyone out there to apply to the 76ers Buy Black program. So the Sixers aren't playing a game between now and Tuesday. We want to send that message out loud and wide. One more chance to sign up for Buy Black. What's the latest count? What's the latest number you've heard, Lauren, for Black-owned and Brown-owned businesses that have applied to the 76ers Buy Black program? It was something large.
I don't know that I have the exact figure, but I know that it's in the hundreds range. There's a lot of interest in this program. And I would like to, of course, remind you that anyone that applies will receive some sort of benefit or support, and those that are chosen will be an official partner of the 76ers this season, receiving personalized, customized marketing plans from the team and get to continue on in a partnership in what's been a special season. So if you or anyone you know has a Black-owned business, a Brown-owned business, please, please, please go to Sixers.com/buyblack to apply for the Buy Black program.
I think that maybe as of Friday, the last number I heard was that there were 400 plus submissions that were sent in. It's probably exceeded that now. And you may say, well, how can the 76ers vet all of these different applications? People throughout the organization are being used as screeners to help in the process. So this is like going to be a company-wide effort. It's very, very exciting. So if you're on the fence, if you know someone who could help and benefit from a boost and some extra support, please go to 76ers.com, Sixers.com/buyblack. Applications close on February 2nd. That is Tuesday. All right, we done. Ryan Coletti, Trevor Gaffney, thank you. Lauren Rosen, thank you. Stay warm out there.
Thank you, Brian Seltzer. Everybody stay warm, stay safe. Thanks for joining us as always. We'll see you on Wednesday.